Hello, friends. Welcome to the LeggLife podcast. My name is Adam.
My name is Sherry.
This is episode number 2. Sherry Beth, we are killing it.
Yeah, we are.
This is one of those things. Episode 2 is a big deal to me because we did one episode of Spill the Teacups. And so now I can officially say this is our most successful and longest running podcast with 2 episodes. Spill the Teacups was like a one of those TV shows that got canceled after the pilot.
Right.
Whereas the LeggLife podcast has been renewed for at least 2 episodes. So I'm really proud of us for doing this. I also feel like this is going to be the episode that starts to feel more like what our podcast will actually be.
Yep.
The first episode, guys know we talked about New Year's resolutions and goals and all that. And that really was a couple things. Obviously, start of the year, one of those things you sort of feel like you kind of have to talk about. Mm-hmm. But then also, we needed a practice episode.
Right. And I think it was a good jumping off point, kind of a practice episode of, just kind of chatting about something that is pertinent to the time of the year that we're in right now.
100% agree. But this topic that we're talking about today was one of the first ones that we jotted down when we even started brainstorming about a podcast. Mm-hmm. This podcast largely came out of conversations that Sherry and I just kind of naturally have. That's one thing that I'm really thankful for that we do is I feel like we communicate really well as a couple.
Yep.
And there's a lot of times that we'll just sit down and have a long conversation about something. And we had a conversation about a couple different topics. And at the end of it, we were like, dang it.
We should have been recording.
Why didn't we record that? That could have been an episode.
That was really great.
And so what we've done is we've actually made a notes in our phone about topics that we want to talk about. And this is one of those topics. Yep. Sherry Beth, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about how you make friends as adults.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
We talked about this on Instagram Live a few times. Mm-hmm. This is one of those topics that maybe it should be easier, right? Maybe we should be like, oh, making friends, that's simple. That's something everybody's good at.
It's not.
No, it's not, for sure. And it doesn't get easier the older you get.
Right. I would actually say that it gets harder the older you get.
100%. And so we're going to talk about that in this episode. We're going to talk about how we've made friends. We're going to talk about just even some of friendship best practices, that kind of thing. I'm really excited about this. And so Sherry, let's just kind of start with this thought that I remember you saying about what it is like to make friends when you're younger.
Yeah, I feel like when you're younger, your friends are largely assigned to you. It's, your parents have their adult friends and their kids, and so their kids are just your automatic friends because that's who you're hanging out with. You don't get a choice in the matter. And cousins, I grew up around my cousins, and they were just sort of ready-made friends. And going to school, you kind of have your classmates, and you kind of do everything together with this one group of kids. And I feel as you get older, as you split into high school where you have different classes and different people in your classes, it gets harder to make friends and keep friends when you're not in direct proximity with them.
Yeah, totally.
And then as you become an adult and you get a job, I think it's even harder.
Well, I think of my friends I had growing up, and largely they were exactly what you said. Mm-hmm. They were, guys that I played sports with, right? They were friends that I went to school with. They were
next door neighbors.
Yeah. I went to the Boys and Girls Club after school when I was in elementary school. And so a lot of the kids that were at the Boys and Girls Club with me were just friends because that's who you spend your time with.
Right.
Right? And
just kind of by default.
That's right. But then as you grow up, you get to college and you get a job and all of a sudden the people you spend your time with, it's more of a professional relationship than a friend relationship.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons that I think a lot of adults get into adulthood, look around and say, man, I have a lot of acquaintances, but I'm not really known.
Yeah, well, and growing up, your friends are all in the same life stage as you.
Totally.
All of your friends are your age and going through the same classes and going through the same sports and the same, extracurricular activities or whatever. And so you kind of have automatic similarities. Yep. And when you work with people, they're all over the board. You work with older and younger and people that you wouldn't necessarily be friends with. It's just who you're spending all of your time with because you're working with them. So it's harder, I think, to just be friends.
Well, and then somebody even earlier tonight on Instagram mentioned in one of our lives, we hopped on and said we were going to talk about this topic. And she said that she finds it really hard as a mom
Yeah.
to make friends. And so it's like, not only do we talk about like work, but now then you get into like parenthood and that kind of consumes your life. And so when in the heck do you have time to make friends?
Right. Yeah.
You know? And so that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today is this idea of friendship, this idea of relationships, this idea of how in the world do you make friends. And I think for me, the place I want to start with this, because this is one of those topics that I'm just convinced friendships are not just a good idea. I think that they're necessary.
Absolutely.
Right? You guys know that Sherry and I are Christians, right? And so kind of our worldview is influenced by that. And our belief is that we were made in the image of God, right? The humans were made in the image of God, but God himself, Trinity, 3 in 1, God himself is communal. So we believe that there's actually something divine in us that like longs for community. We weren't designed to be lone rangers and kind of these solo soldiers that march through life alone.
Yeah.
We were designed to be known by others and loved by others and supported and encouraged by others.
And vice versa. Like we are designed to know and love and support others as well.
That's exactly right. So I think that we even want to start building this foundation of friendship on that, or start building this idea of friendship on that foundation. That foundation is not just friendship is not just a good idea. This really is like how you were made to do life.
Right.
And I think that, you know, even looking at the Sherry in my life and a little bit of our story, just so you know, when we got married, or before we got married, a lot of our friends were in the same stage of life as us, right? Single friends, kind of hanging out, doing life. Then we get married, and
we were kind of the first of our kind of group of friends to get married.
Yeah. And there's a weird change that happens there because all of a sudden you don't have as much in common.
Right.
You're in a different stage of life.
Right.
And so we found ourselves feeling, whether we were or not, we felt more alone. You know, we felt like our friend group wasn't quite as tight. We weren't as close to them because we were married. And so we got connected to a group at our church of other couples who were in our stage of life and other young married couples.
Yep.
And out of that group, some of the most important relationships we've ever had in our life were formed.
That we still have. Yeah.
That we still have, 100%. Like people that we have spent our entire marriage, last 15 years with and doing life with.
Yeah.
People that really, really love us. And so we've been fortunate that from the very beginning of our marriage, we've actually had solid friends.
Yep.
Now, those friends have changed, though, haven't they, Sherry?
They have, and the level of friendship, I think, has changed. You know, people have moved away, and while I still consider them great friends, you know, they're not near, and so we really don't hang out because they've moved away. So, you know, that makes it harder. And stages of life, you know, all of our friends started having kids, which was not a thing for us, and so, you know, that made it harder too, because then, you know, their worlds are consumed by their kids and ours are not. And so it was harder to kind of maintain those friendships, I think.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to touch on is how do you, and we call them orbits, right? So what Sherry and I use the term orbit, like the orbit with people in your life does change based on season, based on year, based on stage of life, all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to touch into that because that's one of the things that we've seen happen a lot. But Sherry, let's talk about making friends.
Yeah.
Like that first awkward, like you look at your life and you realize, you know what? Like I have people that are acquaintances. I have 1,000 friends on Facebook, but nobody that really knows me, nobody that's really my friend. How in the heck do you take that first step?
I think you and I approach it differently.
Yeah.
Because you are extroverted and
What?
Yep. And like you've never met somebody who's not your instant friend.
That is very true.
And I am introverted and I have a harder time opening up to people, and I tend to just hold people at arm's length. And I said this earlier, if I don't feel a connection to you, I'm not going to pursue a friendship. And now that, kind of makes me, I think, a little bit cold-hearted, but that's kind of how I am. Like, if I don't feel like I can really, get a good friendship out of you, I'm not going to pursue it because I don't have the mental capacity to do that.
Yeah, you have, and I've noticed about you, you have a desire to have close friends that are like kind of covenant relationships, like really close people you know and love, people that you would consider family, you really have no desire to just have a bunch of surface level acquaintances.
None.
Yeah, exactly. And so for you,
like zero time for that.
Totally. And so for you, it's like, that's why I'm always impressed when there's somebody that I see you opening up to, or I see you welcoming into your life or inviting into your life in a friendship way. I know what that means to you, but I also know that, like, holy cow, this person doesn't know what a gift this is. Like Sherry, like for Sherry to open up in that kind of a way and want to be that kind of a friend with you is not a common thing.
Right. Yeah.
So talk about, why don't you want those acquaintances? Like, what is it? Is that an introverted thing? Is that a you thing? What do you think?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I think it's an introverted thing. You know, I think I just have a limited capacity for people in my life, and that limited capacity I don't want to fill up with shallow friendships.
That makes sense.
Like the little bit that I have to give to people, I want it to mean something.
Yeah. And I think I approach that in a similar way, but I think it probably looks different because I am extroverted. I love people, right? Like I just, surprise, love people. Like Sherry said, I've never met anybody that I don't want to be my friend, it feels like. But also I think for me, I have this desire to not just, one of the dangers then is that you end up with like 2,000 acquaintances.
And nobody really knows you.
Yeah. And so
you don't really know anybody.
Exactly. And so I also have that desire to have people that I really know, right? Those kind of intimate relationships. When I say intimate, I'm not talking like romantic. I mean like intimacy. Think of a definition like into me see, right? People that I'm opening up to the point that I'm giving you a part of me that I don't give to everybody.
Right.
Right. And so I do have that desire to have those kind of committed core relationships, but those relationships don't just happen.
Nope.
You know, I think very rarely do you ever just fall into friendship. Some things that I think it takes that Sherry and I have seen, number one is just intentionality.
Yep. Rearranging your schedule, or your, taking the time to text and call and visit with these people that you care about, I think is important. I think that you can't, if your entire relationship is just as you happen to pass each other, I don't think that it's going to be a deep.
It'll stay on the acquaintance level.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think you have to be intentional about saying, okay, deep friendships require proximity and time, right? I'm with you often, right? Our first group of friends when we got married, that kind of first core group of other couples, we were together, honestly, probably 3 to 5 nights a week.
Yep.
Like, I mean, all of the time.
All the time.
We were in each other's lives.
We were all young married, and we had, kind of all sort of lost our not really lost, but just kind of moved away from our previous friend groups because we were married, and, we're just in a different life stage. And so we kind of bonded together, and none of us had kids at the time, and it was just like we hung out. Yeah, like 3 to 5 nights a week or more.
Oh, all of the time we were together.
Was all the time.
And I think that's something that really does require, especially when you're building new relationships. But that's difficult because sometimes you don't have that kind of a time.
Right.
And so I think that what you need to do is say, if you're looking at your life saying, man, I don't have any friends, I want to make friends. Number one, I think that's an important acknowledgement, even from the beginning.
Right.
Right. To say, okay, this needs to change. What are the steps that I need to take to change it? Going back even to our podcast topic from episode 1, that to have a goal is great, but like you got to do something.
Right.
Right. And if one of your goals,
you actually have to have steps to achieve that goal.
Yeah. And one of the steps is to say, okay, so I need to find somebody. Right. And maybe that's at a hobby. If you're a mom, maybe there's like a new moms group at your church or in your town or in your community. If you're a reader,
or
maybe
a Facebook group
or Facebook group. That's right.
Yep.
Something like do something to get connected to people, but then just realize that relationships also going to cost you something.
Yep.
Like nights that you're at home, kind of doing nothing, reading movie nights, you might have to scrap some of those because friendship's going to require you to give that stuff up to go out to dinner. Right?
Or to go to somebody's house and hang out. Or
Yep. It's gonna cost you something. And so just know that going in that friendships rarely ever happen. They do normally take intentionality. They take time. They cost you something. But I really do think at the end of the day, what you gain is so much so much more.
It far outweighs what it costs.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
Yep.
We say this a lot in our vlog, that we feel like the thing in life that we are richest in is relationships.
Yeah.
We have been very, very fortunate over our entire marriage to be surrounded by unbelievable people.
Mm-hmm.
And those people have changed. But
the orbits have changed.
The orbits have changed.
Some are a little bit closer, some are a little bit farther.
Yep. But we've always, there's never been a time when we've said, gosh, we're pretty alone right now.
Right.
And I think that's really important. But again, those things don't just happen. I think of Ben and Amanda, right? Some of our very, very best friends. I mean, they're family to us, let's be honest. They live like an hour away from us.
Right.
Yet.
So it takes intentionality to see them.
Yep. It doesn't just, it's not like, hey, we're just going to swing by.
Right.
Right. It's an hour drive out there. It's whatever time we're out there. It's an hour drive back. But the cost of that is so minimal when you compare having Ben and Amanda and the kids in our life.
Right.
Like that is so worth it. In fact, a couple of summers ago, my gosh, when we were first really getting to know Ben and Amanda, I bet we were at their house, Sherry, how many nights a week?
2 or 3 times a week. Yep.
Easily. Like we were making that drive 2 or 3 nights a week to go see them.
Yep.
Because having them in our life is worth the drive. It's worth the effort. It's worth the investment. 100%.
Yep.
And so that's one of the things I think we would say, just intentionality, proximity, time. But there's also some things that aren't as fun sounding.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. Sure, relationships are messy.
Yep, they are.
There's a saying that says, whenever 2 or 3 are gathered, somebody spills the milk. Right? And I think that's one of the things that people sometimes overlook or don't count the cost of in relationships. That if you want a true friend, if you want somebody to be like family to you, guess what? They're going to screw up.
And so are you.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, is that you're not the perfect one in this relationship, and neither are they. Expect messes. Expect things to not go well. Expect things to get messy and to get uncomfortable and to get awkward.
Yeah. But you know what? I will say that I think that's when, for us, for me at least, when things get messy and we work through things with people, that brings us closer. Like, that just makes the friendship even stronger.
Yeah.
And even better. Because when they see my crap and I see theirs, and we are still together at the end of it, like, I think that means that, like, this is a good friendship. This is a true friendship.
Yeah, if you're my friend, like when things are easy and fun and, things are going great, but then when things get hard, like you bail, right? Or you leave, then you were just a friend of convenience, right? Like our friendship to you was just a friendship of convenience. But if you're willing to press through that stuff, that's where you become family.
Yep.
It's like, even with the hard stuff, I'm not leaving you.
Right.
Like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. I'm committed to you, and I'm committed to this relationship. And I think that those are the friendships that are so hard to find.
Yep. And, I mean, those are the friendships that take so much work, because
100%.
It's not fun and it's not easy to go through people's messes.
It's easy to bail.
It's easy to bail. And honestly, when I'm going through a mess, it's easy for me to bail. Like, it's easy for me to just retreat and not want to reach out to friends.
100%.
And so when I'm going through that stuff, it's harder for me to be like, hey, I could really use some help. Hey, I could really use some prayers. Hey, I could really, it's harder for me to reach out in the middle of my mess as well.
Yeah, but I do think what you said is exactly right. It's in those things and through those things that lifelong friendships are born.
Yep.
Right? If when things get hard, somebody leaves, somebody bails, then that probably isn't the kind of friendship or relationship that was going to last anyway.
Right.
So...
It's not a good friendship.
Yeah, totally. The other thing I think we talked about was this idea of rhythms and orbits, right? So again, we've had friends that were a part of our life for a season, and then something changed, and it's not always a bad thing. Right? That's not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing.
But because of life changes...
stage of life or proximity or a new job or whatever, things have just changed.
And I think one of the things that people do too often is sometimes they try to hold on to a relationship or a friendship when maybe it's time for that orbit to go away or to change.
Or to be pushed out a little bit farther to make room for maybe somebody better for you at the time.
Yeah, and I think that, that first group of friends that we had that largely was and still is family to us,
Mm-hmm.
we had to expand that orbit and lessen the amount of time we saw them, which wasn't easy,
Right.
right? Because they were the biggest part of our life. But at the same time, what that did is that created margin in our life for us to meet people like Desi or like Ben and Amanda,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so as that orbit as we let go of one set of relationships in a healthy way,
Right.
it created space for a whole nother one of people that have been like family to us.
Yeah.
So those are just some things that we do. Sherry Beth, let's talk a little bit now about friendship best practices.
Yeah.
So you guys, this is one of those things that I think this is a reminder to both Sherry and I, as well as to you guys. These are the things that we keep in our mind when we are trying to be a friend to others, when we are engaging in relationships. These are just some of the things that really, these are our values when it comes to friendship.
Right.
Because again, friendship doesn't just happen. It takes intentionality, it takes time, it takes proximity, but then it also takes what's the foundation we're building friendship on? And one of those things, and this is one of my favorite things, is to believe the best about each other.
Yes.
Sherry Beth, talk a little bit about that.
I think believing the best about somebody is if they say something mean or if they do something that doesn't seem to align with what you think of them, believe the best in them. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they're, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. Maybe talk to them about it if they said something that hurt your feelings. Just believe that they didn't intend to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something on Pinterest that says when somebody shows you who they really are, believe them. And I kind of agree with that to a point, but I think that there's also people just have bad days.
Yep. And even one of bad days, even bad seasons sometimes.
Bad seasons. And, sometimes I am not quick on my feet. I'm a very slow processor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I very rarely have quick comebacks for things. And so occasionally if I speak before I've really thought it through, what I say is not what I actually mean.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't come out the way that I'm intending.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is something that Adam and I have struggled with because if I just speak, it's often not at all what I'm trying to say. My tongue works before my brain does, and so I've had to backtrack a lot, and it's a lot harder for me personally to just say something that I actually mean immediately. And so with Adam believing the best in me that I didn't mean what I said or the way I said it or the tone that I said it in or whatever, that helps our friendship, I think.
Oh my gosh, 100%. Mm-hmm. Because when you go into a relationship, again, there's going to be mess, there's going to be miscommunication, there's going to be misunderstanding. But if you approach those things with the understanding that, okay, what do I know to be true about Sherry? I know Sherry loves me, right? In fact, I'm not going to use you as an example because we're married. Okay. I'm going to use Ben as an example.
Okay.
Right? What do I know to be true about Ben? I know for a fact that Ben loves me. Mm-hmm. I know for a fact that Ben wants the best for me. I know for a fact that I don't know that there's anything Ben wouldn't do for me. Right? These are things that I know to be true. And let's say hypothetically, this has not happened, but hypothetically, I heard Ben say something that to me felt not harmful, but it felt like it hurt me. Mm-hmm. Right? I could say, oh, I knew it.
Forget it.
You know what I mean? I knew that it was only a matter of time before he did this to me. I knew that it was only a matter of time before he hurt me. I knew that he wasn't as good of a guy as he said. I knew all that kind of stuff. But if I stop and I breathe and I say, you know what? This is what I heard, but that doesn't line up with what I know to be true about Ben.
Right.
Right? And I'm going to believe the best that what he said or what I heard isn't what he intended.
Right.
And then go to Ben and be like, hey, this is what I heard, and trust that our relationship is strong enough that we can talk about that and things are fine.
Right.
Most relational issues that I have seen happen between friends have been from misunderstanding.
And miscommunication because people hear things differently than they are said.
That's the thing. There have been a number of friends that have been like, yeah, but you said this. I'm like, no, I didn't. And if I said that, that was not at all my intention.
Right.
Right. And so it's care about our relationship enough to believe the best about me,
Right.
that I wouldn't say that to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That even if that's what you heard, even if those were my words,
Right.
that's not what I meant.
Right. And I think everybody has like their own filter that they're hearing things through.
Totally.
And, based on your past, based on whatever everybody has their own filters that they're hearing things through. And so Adam can say a sentence that he means in one way, and because of my past experiences, because of my own prejudices, because of whatever, I hear it differently than how he said it.
Yep.
Now that doesn't make him a bad person. That doesn't make me a bad person. That just means that there's a miscommunication happening. Right. And so for us, it's like, okay, so wait, what did you mean by that?
Yep. That's why I think those lines of communication are so important.
Here's what I heard. Yep. Here's how I took it.
Yep.
Is that how you intended it?
That's one of my favorite questions in any relationship is what I heard you say. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Is that what you intended? Because that clears up so much. And not just in friendships, like in work, in interpersonal relationships, in anything. Like, okay, what I heard you just say was this. And that gives the other person the opportunity to be like, oh, first of all, I'm sorry if that's what you heard. That's not at all what I intended.
Right.
Right. But again, we have to believe the best about the other person. Mm-hmm. There are things that I have to believe that, you know what I know to be true about Sherry, I know she wouldn't say this. What I know to be true about Ben, I know he wouldn't say this. What I know to be true about other friends, I just know they wouldn't have intended to say that.
Right.
But what Sherry said, I think, is really important because we do approach this through our own lens.
Right.
And a lot of us have been burned by past friendships. And in some ways, we approach all of our current relationships with that wound.
Right. Yeah.
Right? That it's only a matter of time before you hurt me. It's only a matter of time before you leave me. I think that we have this, if you really knew me, you would leave me.
Yeah.
Or this, it's only a matter of time before you burn me. Like, sometimes when friendships are going so good, I know a lot of people that will sabotage those because they don't know how to operate in a healthy relationship.
Yeah. Because
it's like, oh, you're too close. And so I need to do something to separate myself from this.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid that we're becoming such good friends that I could really get hurt.
You could really hurt me because you know things about me now.
And
that could really hurt me.
And can I be honest? That's true.
Yeah.
The reality is there is no person in this world that could hurt me more than Sherry could.
Yeah.
Right? That's just the truth. But the reason that's true is that we have invested in this relationship. Ben could hurt me more than 99% of the people off the street, because he's somebody that I care about and love, and he's somebody that I consider a real lifelong friend. But at the same time, it's worth it.
Right.
The potential for that hurt is so worth the relationship that I get out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, it really is a risk, and I have for sure been burned. Like, I've opened myself up to people, and
without a doubt,
and they have turned it around and they've hurt me, and that it sucks, and it makes it harder for me to want to reach out and open up to more people because they could hurt me, and I've been hurt, and you know, like I am approaching them with this open wound, and it's hard, but I think it's so worth it when you do find those covenant relationships that, and you know what, I mean, again, you're going to listen to things through your own filter, you're going to see things through your own lens, and things are going to get misconstrued, and people are going to hurt you whether they mean to or not, but I think working through that is so worth it.
What you get is so worth it, right? Working through people's messes, believing the best about people. It's worth it to take the risk for relationship. I think one other just best practice as we start to wrap up a little bit here is actually a topic that we're going to do a whole episode on eventually. And that's boundaries in relationships.
Yep.
This is a tough one for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? For a lot of people.
Yeah. And well, you know, like he said, we're gonna actually do a whole episode on just boundaries in relationships and what that looks like. But I do think that it's hard when you set a boundary that is healthy for you and somebody's on the other side of that boundary. If you're within that boundary, you have no problem with people setting boundaries. But the second you're on the other side of that, ooh.
People love boundaries as long as the boundary includes me.
Right.
I think that one of the difficulties is, and this is tough, especially when we're talking about wounding in relationships, I've seen people use the term boundary when the reality is all they're trying to do is keep people out.
It's a fence. It's
It's
not
a
a boundary.
fence. It's not a boundary. That's exactly right. It's like, no, you're not putting up a healthy boundary. Like, you're just afraid to get close to people.
Yep.
And I think that takes sometimes some hard introspection.
Yeah, some
right?
soul searching.
Some soul searching to look at your life and be like, okay, like, why do I never let people get close to me? Is that because I have quote unquote healthy boundaries? Or is that because like I'm just kind of afraid?
Right.
So yeah, we're going to do a whole podcast episode on this. Boundaries is a topic that I care a lot about. And so I know that Sherry and I talked a lot about. So we're excited to do that. Sherry, any final thoughts on friendship? Making friends as adults?
It's hard, but it's worth it.
I think that's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
It's hard, it's worth it, but also remember, like, you were made for this.
Yeah, and I think maybe just, I don't know, start small. Like, I don't think that you need to instantly have like this super crazy covenant relationship. I think like invite someone out to coffee, you know, like see if there's a spark, like see if there's some kind of connection, and if you feel like this could be somebody really special in your life.
It kind of sounds a little bit like dating, and honestly,
it kind of is.
A little bit it is.
It is, right.
And so I think you do have to be intentional and take this step and be like, you know what? Like, it's worth what I get for the awkwardness of that conversation is worth it.
Yep.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think maybe like going into a new friendship with like this thought, like, I really want this person to be my covenant relationship, is putting so much pressure on you and the other person, and I think it's probably going to fail. Like, I think that you just start it off as like close or like, you know, acquaintances, and you take a step and then you take a step and you take a step until you get to that deep covenant relationship. I don't think that you just instantly have that. And I think, you know, it's hard. It's a lot of pressure on a relationship if you go into a brand new relationship with that in your head.
Well, it's like going into dating relationships thinking like, I'm going to marry this person.
Right.
It's like, what are you talking about? You literally just like met them on Tinder like a week ago. Like, let's have coffee first.
Right.
Right.
Hold up. Take a couple steps back.
That's exactly right. And friendship really is very similar to that. I think the other thing I'd say, and this is a big hurdle for people, as I've worked with marginalized people in a professional setting, one of the things that I hear a lot from people is they don't even feel like they're worth or worthy of friendships. They don't feel like they're worth being known. And so what happens is that they look at their life and they realize, oh, I don't have people in my life. And it's like, well, yeah, but I'm not worth friends. I'm not worthy of friends. I'm not good enough to have friends. I'm not worth being known. There's nothing special about me.
Yeah.
Just so you know, that's crap.
That's not true.
That's not true.
It's something that all of us struggle with. I mean, I do.
Yeah.
I struggle with that. Like, I don't feel like I am worthy of the amazing people that I have in my life.
and I think
and it's hard to get past that.
It is hard to get past that. But I think, again, this is where it's important to go back to be like, okay, no matter what you think, the truth is, we believe you were created for community.
Yeah.
That you were created to have people who believe the best about you, who encourage you, who are there fighting for you and with you every step of your life.
Yeah.
Who are going to go through the hard things of life and not leave you. You were made for those kind of relationships, and you're worth them.
Yes, absolutely.
Like you are worthy of those kind of relationships. And I'm just so convinced that if you are intentional about pursuing those, if you are intentional about taking the steps to get those, no matter how hard it may be, you know, it may take 10 or 20 attempts at starting friends or finding friends. But when you get it, it's worth it.
Yep.
Right? When you get it, it's worth it. Again, when I look at the friends that we have in our life, like those core committed friends, there is nothing that I wouldn't give to have them in my life.
Right.
There's not a day that goes by that our friends are not lifting us up and encouraging us and being life to us and just, I don't know, just like helping life be better.
Yep.
So there you go, friends. Did we cover everything? No.
Probably not.
Because it's kind of impossible to.
Right.
But we know this is a topic that we've talked about, again, a lot on Instagram. We know that it's one that matters to us because friendships are so important to us.
Yeah.
And so we just wanted to have that conversation. So that's basically just kind of us giving you a sneak peek into the kind of stuff that Sherry and I talk about.
Yeah.
This was just like a night at home and you guys got to hang out with us.
Yeah.
But Sherry Beth,
Mm-hmm.
we are ending all of our podcasts with 2 questions.
We are, yes.
And you get to pick one of them to answer.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys are new here, the questions that we ask each other at the end of the podcast are, who is someone that has been inspiring you lately? Or what is something that has been bringing you joy? And so, Sherry Beth Legg,
Mm-hmm.
those questions, which one do you want to answer today?
I'm going to go with the joy one again.
Okay.
And it's a little bit silly, but the last couple of days we have been having these Captain Crunch coffees in the morning, and they're so good, and they just make me smile. It just makes me so happy.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, coffee is definitely something that brings you joy.
Yes, it is.
I love that. So mine, I'm going to answer the exact opposite question. Maybe this will be a trend. Whatever question you answer,
Yeah.
I'm going to answer the opposite one. Mine is, I'm going to answer, who is someone that has been inspiring to you lately? Sticking with the topic of this podcast. And again, the answers do not have to be on topic.
Mine wasn't.
yours was not. Coffee can be a friend, though.
That's true.
Coffee's a very good friend.
Coffee's a very good
most
friend.
days. I am going to say Ben. Here's why. A lot of you guys, if you follow us on Instagram, you're part of our Instagram community, you guys will know that Ben is pursuing this dream of starting Expedition Barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben and I are very similar in a lot of ways, in that we are very good at a lot of things, but like a master at none. Right? Like, I think Ben and I remember a conversation we had one time where we're like, honestly, I feel like I could do any job in the world and be happy with it.
Yeah, right.
Because like
and do good at it.
And do good at
do
it.
a good job.
But because like my identity and my love for life like a job is just a job to us. But one of Ben's dreams is starting a food truck, like starting this like barbecue truck. Ben is super into barbecue culture. And for the last, months,
Mm-hmm.
Ben has been working toward this. Ben and Amanda have been working towards starting Expedition Barbecue. And there have been highs and lows in this journey that we've been able to see because we're close to them. But through the successes and the, sort of failures, he has stayed so committed and so true to this vision, but also he has stayed so encouraging and focused on this.
Right.
Like I haven't seen him get derailed. I haven't seen him get bummed out.
He's like, well, that didn't work, so what's next?
Yeah. So what's next?
Let's try something else.
And that has just been super duper inspiring to me.
You said super duper.
I did say super duper. To watch somebody that I know and somebody that I love pursue a dream in such a way that he's finding joy in it. He's not getting derailed when things don't go right. And I'm getting more and more excited to watch that dream become a reality.
Yeah.
A lot of it's for selfish reasons, because I know we get great barbecue in our life.
Correct.
when it becomes a reality.
I mean, we get great barbecue now.
It's the best.
We're the taste testers on a lot of stuff.
That is like the best role ever.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. I've just been really inspired by Ben lately as I've watched him pursue that dream. But again, this goes back to friendship. A lot of the best friendships are like forged in the fire, And so my inspiration has largely been watching Ben go through things that didn't work out.
Yeah.
It's like, it's through those hard things that I watch how he responds, and I'm like, man, like, I'm really proud of this guy. And so that to me is that's what friendship is. Sherry Beth.
Yeah.
Episode number 2 in the books.
Yeah, it is.
How are you feeling about this still?
Good. I still like it. I think it's fun.
I still like it.
2 whole episodes in.
2 episodes in. Can you imagine? Imagine if we did this like we did LeggLife. Because LeggLife we have over on YouTube, I think like 600 videos.
Yeesh.
Could you imagine having like 600 podcast episodes?
I mean, not right now, because we only have 2.
I was going to say, how about this? How about let's just get to number 3?
Correct.
Deal. All right, friends. We love you guys so very much. Thanks for being a part of our life. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the podcast. And we will see you guys very soon.